Hi, in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to do game 3 from the June 2007 prep test. Okay, so here we have a sequencing game. You could also call it an ordering game or a linear game. And we have 7 positions, and we have 4 players or elements, entities that are going to be filling those 7 positions. So because we have an uneven number of positions that must be filled, because we know that each voyage will occur in exactly one of the first 7 weeks, and because of that, we do know that we're going to have to use at least one of the players more than once. And we're told that each player or destination is scheduled for at least one of the weeks. So minimum of one, and then maximum to fill up the 7 spaces. Okay, and then we get into the conditions. So Jamaica is not going to be the destination in week 4, right? So I'm going to go ahead and start drawing out my diagram here. Okay, so Jamaica not going to be in 4 there. Okay, write it out like this. That's going to be easiest for now. Rule 2, Trinidad will be the destination in week 7. So I'm just going to add that directly into my diagram. Freedom will make exactly 2 voyages to Martinique. And at least 1 voyage to Guadeloupe will occur in some week between those 2 voyages. So we have M1, and then somewhere between M1 and M2, we have a minimum of 1 trip to G, okay? And then M2, and we know that we have exactly 2 voyages to Martinique, so M2 is where it stops in terms of Martinique's voyages. All right, and then rule 4, we have a bit of a hidden conditional rule. Okay, and we know that if it makes a voyage, there's a voyage to Jamaica, then Guadeloupe will be the destination preceding that voyage. And we also know if it's not possible for, oh, I reversed that there. So Guadeloupe has to precede Jamaica. Okay. So that one, yeah, a bit of a hidden conditional rule. If you're familiar with the LSAT trainer, conditional rules are discussed in chapter 13. So this might be a game to revisit after having completed that chapter. Yeah, and so just a bit of an understanding of conditional reasoning is going to be necessary there. Okay, and then I'm creating the contrapositive. You see I flipped, and now I need to do the second step of creating the contrapositive, and I need to actually negate, so I'm crossing them out. So if it's not possible to have G before J, then we can't have J. All right, so an example of that would be in position 1, it's not possible to have a destination prior to that in this scenario. So that means that J cannot be in position 1. Right? Anytime we see J, we should see G in front of it. And that doesn't mean that when we see G, we have to see J after it. G is not the trigger, J is. All right. And once again, if that's confusing, that would be a sign to become more familiar with conditional reasoning on the LSAT and how to interpret these conditional rules and conditional statements. Okay, last rule. No destination will be scheduled for consecutive weeks, right? So I'm just going to do XX to represent, any of our players. Okay, and we can't have 2 side by side. All right, great. Okay, so that's it for the rules and the setup. Let's get into the questions. So first question is very typical. We have asking, what's an acceptable schedule here from the 1st to the 7th week, and we can go through the rules and do a process of elimination based on which ones break the rules. So J is not allowed to be 4th. So we can eliminate D because of that. T has to be 7th, so we can eliminate E. We have to have MGM somewhere. We could have some other things in between, but we have to have exactly 2 voyages to Martinique, and there has to be 1 to Guadeloupe between them. We can eliminate B because we don't see G between the 2 M's. A is fine, right? We have Trinidad in there as well, but that's okay. That's not a problem. All right, and then G, if we see J, we should see G before it, so we can eliminate C, and A is the correct answer. Okay. So once we've chosen an answer, if we're in self-paced mode, we can show answer and see if we've got it correct. Moving on, which one of the following cannot be true about Freedom's schedule of voyages? All right, so based on what we already know here, right, the original rules, we're going to have to go through and find something that breaks one of those rules. Freedom makes a voyage to Trinidad in week 6. Well, what do we know about Trinidad? We know that Trinidad is already in week 7, and we know that no destination will be scheduled for consecutive weeks. So it's a combination of Rule 2 and Rule 5 that is going to allow us to choose A because we're looking for something that is not possible. 13. If Freedom makes a voyage to Trinidad in week 5, which one of the following could be true? All right, so now we are going to want to create a little solution here, add that new information in the question-specific condition. So we have 2 T's now in the mix. What else do we have going on, right? We know we have to have MGM somewhere. We know we have to put J somewhere, and J can't be first. J can't be between the 2 T's here because G has to be ahead of it. So I would start thinking about possible solutions and thinking about where am I going to fit MGM. So I'm going to give this a go. What if I put M in between there? And then here I have GJ. Here I could have, J can't be 4th. Okay, so I'm going to have to put something else in 4th, maybe another G. And that could work. That's possible, right? So that, yeah, that 4th position can't be J. That's going to be important there. Okay, so what could be true? Could Freedom make a voyage to Trinidad in week 1? Well, let's see. Would that work? All right, so where are we going to put G and J? We'd end up having J in week 4, right? Like I almost did previously. So definitely can't be A, right? Freedom makes a voyage to Martinique in week 2. Again, that is going to cause problems because we have to have GJ in between the 2 M's, and then it's going to put J in 4th. So can't be B either. G in week 3. So that's, once again, we're going to have issues because if we put G in week 3, right, then where are we going to fit G and J together and still have room to have those 2 M's on either side of at least 1 G? So that's also going to be putting J in 4th. D, Martinique in week 4. Okay, so Martinique in week 4 could work, right? We'd have M and M on either side of GJ. We'd have to put G in here between those 2 T's. We can't add another T in there. We've already used the 2 M's. And we can't put J in there because then G would have to be in front of it. So this works out. So D is possible. Okay. And Jamaica can't be in week 6 because whenever we have Jamaica, we should have Guadeloupe in front of it. And we know from the question specific condition that Trinidad is in week 5. All right. That one took a little longer, right? Having to kind of test all of those possible solutions. Okay, so let's keep moving. We've got a question-specific condition again, and it's giving us a good amount of information. Okay, so G first, and we have J fifth, which is very helpful because J being fifth is a trigger, and I accidentally actually cleared all of my drawings there, but I remember that means that G has to be ahead of it. We also know that we have to have two M's, but they can't be consecutive. So one of them will definitely be over here. Okay, and then in this space here, we have some options. So we don't really know too much, except that one of those spaces is going to be Martinique. So we could split worlds. We could take a little moment to show both of those options. That's not necessary here, and probably once you've mastered games a bit more, you're not really going to feel the need to do that, but doesn't take too much time really. So you can always just split there and then think about what possible players you might have in between there. So T really would be the only option. You can't have J, at least in this world up here, because M is in front of it, and you can't have M or G. So that would have to be T. In this scenario, though, you could have J because G is in front of it. So it could be J or T in that spot. Okay. We are looking for something that must be true, though, right? So all of that work that we're doing, looking at what are the different possibilities, that's not really relevant for this specific question, right? So like I said, when you've really mastered games, you get to a point where the question type is going to lead you to particular strategy. So yeah, so you wouldn't really need to bother doing the work for positions 2 and 3. And you can see, well, what do these two worlds have in common? And Freedom makes a voyage to Martinique in week 6 in both of those worlds. So that's the correct answer. Okay, next question. Clear those. If Freedom makes a voyage to Guadeloupe in week 1 and Trinidad in week 2. Okay, so probably didn't need to clear those actually, because I think I may have had an example there, but that's okay. It doesn't take long to just write out a new solution. So we have to have M, G, and J fill this space. So the only way to do it is have the first M here, G, J, and then the other M. So what must be true? Freedom makes a voyage to Martinique in week 3. That must be true. Yep. Okay, and none of the other ones are possible, right? We only have one acceptable solution with these question-specific conditions. If Freedom makes a voyage to Martinique in week 3, which one of the following could be an accurate list of Freedom's destinations in weeks 4 and 5, respectively? So we do know it could be GJ. That's possible, but that is not an option here. So there must be some other solution where we have M in week 3. Okay, so if we start there, M in 3, and then we always know that T is last. How could we set this up? Well, one thing that we haven't really tried is having MGM at the beginning and having the JG combo later on. So we could have JG, and we could have T here, or another G potentially. Okay, but I did just create a solution where D would work. So I know that, oh, sorry, could be, what did I do wrong here? MGM, GG, Martinique in week 3. Am I looking at the right ones? Oh, yep. I put J before G. That's what I did. Okay, so my mistake there, not paying attention to that. So TG is not an option. So let's show how it's possible that we have G and then T. T, and then space T. So we could have M here, and here we could have GJ. Okay, so that would be a potential solution. Right, so my bad for trying to rush through this, especially without having my visuals for the rules. Doing it in my head. I always tell my students not to do that, so I should probably follow my own advice. Okay, which one of the following must be true about Freedom's schedule of voyages? Freedom makes a voyage to Guadalupe either in week 1 or week 2. Kind of looks like that might have to happen, but we don't know for sure. B, based on our bank of acceptable solutions, looks like that might have to happen as well. So between those two, we don't know which one. Freedom makes at most 2 voyages to Guadalupe. Well, have we ever seen more than that? No, but why don't we give it a try, see if we can make more happen. Okay, so M, G, M, and then what do we have? We could have G and then T, right? We could have 3 to Guadalupe. That is possible. So we can eliminate C. And then T, do we have a lot to Trinidad? Have we done that before? Let's see, T. Oh, but I can't have J 4th. So how do I want to do that? Don't want the M there. T space T. How can I get another T in here? I have T 4th. I definitely can't have more than 2 voyages to Jamaica. I don't even know if I could have, oh no, I could have 2 because I could have that. Okay, so I believe that D is the correct answer because every time we have J, we also have to have G. If we have it more than 2 times, we would have it 3 times. So that would be 3 J's plus 3 G's plus 1 other player. And that would mean that we either have to eliminate Martinique or Trinidad, right? So that's not going to work. So definitely D is the correct answer. Actually proving that the other ones, that we can negate them and it's still possible is going to take a bit more time, right? But if you kind of go through and you think about what the consequences would be of negating this statement, then you can see how the negation of it would break a rule. Therefore, the statement as is must be true. So when we negate it, we're suggesting that it is not necessarily true, right? So if D is not true, then we would end up breaking a rule. So that therefore D must be true, okay? So it's a little bit of a negation test there. I also think of it as a process of falsification. So we're attempting to falsify the statement. And if we can't falsify it, then we're going to take it to be true. If it's false and we run into problems, we can see that it must be true. So for D, to falsify it, we would try to exceed the maximum. Okay, so when they say it's at most 2, we would attempt to go over 2. If it's possible to do that, D doesn't have to be true, right? So I did show that earlier with G, that we could have 3 voyages to Guadalupe. So if we can have 3, then we don't have a maximum of 2, right? So that would be the falsification process. But you can kind of see how one of the strategies that can help you go a little bit faster is to actually scan through the answers a little bit, right? To read them, but not go too deeply into trying to prove or disprove each one until, you get to ones that really you can see how that's going to interact with the other rules. So in this case, because Jamaica is a trigger, because of rule 4, a voyage to Jamaica is going to then involve Guadalupe as well. So hopefully that makes sense. But that's game 3 from the June 2007 prep test. I did go a little bit quickly through it, and I made that mistake there with what was it, question 16? Yeah. So if you do have questions, if you want me to make a separate video on question 16 to do it correctly the first time, I can definitely do that. But hopefully that's helpful. And like I said, definitely trying to remember all of the rules in your head instead of having those visuals is tricky. So I guess that's the broader, more generalized lesson from my mistake on question 16. Okay, have a good one.